StopTextsStopRex.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter @Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk, whichever way works out best for you to see, hear, participate in the show, whichever you want to do. Really, that's the right place for you to be as we continue our dual missions to have live local talk radio here in the Borderland, and to, of course, talk about the things going on and affecting us right here, because no one else is going to have that conversation the way that the people who live, work, play, raise families, careers, all that kind of stuff have happened right here. And a bunch of stuff going on right in our area, as was coming up right at the end of our show yesterday, resolution to that Amber Alert. Though we do have Amber Bonda in with us here in the studio, different way. And the only reason I'm even making that joke is because that one was successfully resolved with that father arrested. But we'll get into those details. As also, when it comes to, I guess, the public safety aspects, the prospective top cops or chiefs of police for El Paso making their case at that public meet and greet that happened immediately after our program yesterday. Some of their details and what they are bringing forth to it. Some more of those like property development deals and things going on in our area, including what might be the fate of that. There's a lot of news that had been around it as it was now been fully demolished. That former Luby's site, not too far down the street from us here at the stations, also El Paso water, but in other ways and other issues going on, including when it comes to immigration and border security issues, something that y'all have been noticing and talking to me about, but then also is now being reported on more widely, like from El Paso Matters, about more street releases feared to be impending in our area, specifically coming from some of the organizations, the NGOs involved in it, as well as some other things going on immediately in our area, including releases of journalists held in other places, and also checking in on the status of the Ken Paxton impeachment hearings going on at the Texas State Capitol. Yeah, it's still going on is the shorthand version of it. We'll get into those details. And then our interview today, as much as that's going on in Texas, in New Mexico, different cases, court cases in that case, no pun intended, still going on, as there as that temporary restrictive order being put into place, and actually maybe now even extended by the request of the administration of the governor in New Mexico. But we're talking with the filers of that suit that resulted in that order, the GOA, Gun Owners of America, on their perspective, their reasoning, and responses to many of the arguments and situations going on surrounding it. So another stacked show for you. So those also chiming in over there, including Ida Besa Gardner with the High in the Wave, and then again Amber with the Rock On. We got quite a hand signal filled day here already, and those dropping those likes and reacts, including James Holmes, Amber, and Ida. That's one of the better ways you can chime in throughout the progress of the show. Let us know what you think and add your 2 cents along with all the other things going on. So let's dive right in. Yeah, as it came out and right at the end of our show yesterday, and again, we don't usually end up commenting on like individual crimes and circumstances, but given the fact that we've been talking about Amber Alerts anyway, and the fact that this one was resolved, from our news partners at KFOX 14, El Paso father arrested in Ciudad Juarez after triggering Amber Alert. So it came in yesterday afternoon, and the most important part of the headline: baby has been rescued and the father arrested, according to El Paso police. So in this case, it was Herrero de la Luz was arrested in Ciudad Juarez, Mexico, in collaboration with Mexican municipal police, and the 11-month-old was returned to his mother on Wednesday evening. So definitely, I guess, an argument to say that the system, or at the very least the cooperation that it engenders and creates, did indeed work in this case. And the local aspect of it here, again, was always kind of my fear whenever I had to, just for peace of mind and not worrying about what's going on in Beaumont, deal with it. There's been some other conversation going on. I want to say it was the Texas Tribune, but some commentary and articles I've been reading recently about how to structure a system like that, and how actually the administration of it for the statewide alerts is pretty significant. And so looking at potentials for making it more of a community based, and so maybe less of a threshold in order to be triggered. So those kind of things here. James Ratcliffe saying, I guess I was right about here, waste of noise. Okay, I mean, you're entitled to your perspective on it, but I would say in this case, it ended up working. So there's going to be more details, hopefully, about the arrest here. But yeah, they do have the full details of the circumstances. And so the information that went out, I mean, again, I would argue in this case, it worked, as we also have Mondo Moncada with the very reserved Yo over on the Twitch stream specifically. So, I mean, again, system working, successful resolution. Wouldn't exactly call it happy, though it could be worse, certainly. But just knowing that it has come to a resolution, and one that is definitely more good than bad. I don't know. Anyway, happy to know it worked that way. But also, speaking of law enforcement and the things going on with it, we mentioned that right after our show yesterday, that it was, and did end up happening, expected to be that meet and greet with the different chief of police candidates for El Paso. We got a lot of vacancies going on here, this being an unelected one, because they are chosen, hired, selected by City Council and the Mayor of El Paso. And indeed, Mayor Oscar Leeser did give a brief message, followed by the interim city manager, retired Colonel Kerry Weston, as part of it. And so each candidate got to say their piece and address the public. Steve Dye, the finalist from Grand Prairie, first up, again, according to our news partners at KFOX 14, talking about his experience and specifically community engagement along with it, saying, quote, "I believe in leading a highly ethical organization where it's a culture of self-discipline, highly transparent with the public, very accountable because we serve the citizens." And Peter Pasillas, the current acting interim chief, for the acting and interim is probably redundant, interim chief, police chief is definitely the title there, talking about his experience, 38 years of police service, and saying, quote, "My primary goal as police chief is to ensure our community relations are strong, then we can have a dialogue no matter how hard it is." And also talking about, since it's been in the news recently, about holding people within the department accountable if necessary. The next finalist, David Ransom, currently serves as, again, noted by our news partners at KFOX 14, the police chief for the Berklee College of Music in Boston, sharing his ties to El Paso, having, I believe, started his career there, and speaking specifically about how there's according to him, a, quote, 89% favorable rate for the police department and what they do, end quote, in our community. And last up in the order of speakers, and this one was Victor Zarur, talking about he's currently the interim executive assistant chief with the El Paso Police Department. So another, I mean, most of them are local present, or if not directly connected, saying, quote, "The biggest thing as officers with the community is that day-to-day conversation to know that we're serving you and meeting your needs." Some other questions, and questions about the philosophy as well. And so they have some more of the impressions from among those that were there and commenting on it. So that will be, of course, the ongoing conversation, and one of the biggest decisions likely to happen during this interim tenure for the city manager, Kerry Weston, because, yeah, this one, I mean, how long was Greg Allen in place? Decades, for sure. I'm confident about saying that part of it. So, and he will be the one that is doing the selection on it. So no date for that one just yet, but at the very least seeming like it's happening a bit quicker than some of the other replacements, including for him himself, the interim city manager, that is, with, I believe, City Council. Double check to see if they had any action on it in this most recent City Council meeting, but I believe that was postponed beyond that. And so that search firm selection still in limbo in that particular case there. Though, of course, it's been noted that the next top cop here in El Paso is going to have quite a lot of work ahead of them, and things that they are going to be needing to do, as specifically noted by, among other things, El Paso Matters, and some of their reporting about, well, their headline, "Next El Paso Police Chief to Inherit Safe City Designation, Controversy Over Officer Arrests." So, yeah, there's certainly some work to be done there. And they have a lot of interesting stories out today, including one about border security and immigration, but we'll talk about that one here in just a minute, due for that first break of this hour right now, of course. And you are tuned in to Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Coming out of this break, switching over to the Land of Enchantment for a bit, as we have been this week. Got the chance to speak with the Gun Owners of America, a national spokesperson for them, about the action that they took pretty well immediately after that first announcement was made, very end of last week, from the governor of New Mexico about when it comes to guns and gun rights and the public safety and health orders, and what comes next now that we have that temporary restrictive order injunction in general in place. So a whole lot more to come and a whole lot more to be discussing. You're, of course, locked in with us, getting barely into the first hour, and a whole lot more to come. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Phone calls a little bit later, get into some of the comments as well. Just a whole lot going on here. So stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. Maser Security Alarms, providing safety, security, and peace of mind in our region for more than 40 years now, and their licensed, certified, and experienced install techs can take on just about any job. No job is too large or too small for them. So wherever you need that safety, security, and again, very importantly, peace of mind, be at home, at the office, or anywhere in between, there's definitely a lot that they can do for you. And to get your free quote to see what they can bring to the services for you or to upgrade your existing system, give them a call at 915-590-0033. That's 915-590-0033. Be sure to ask them about the 690 discount. They are offering that for listeners from this station. So again, 915-590-0033, Maser Security Alarms.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Stop and go traffic on Gateway East approaching Zaragoza due to a minor accident. Eastbound Montana still slow from before the loop out to Zaragoza. 7-minute delays from an earlier rollover crash that's been cleared off to the right. And in the Upper Valley, it's still slow. South Desert eastbound from Mountain Pass and the Anthony exit down to Artcraft. 35-minute delays. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Want to save on new blinds? Blindster.com offers custom blinds, shades, and shutters at prices less than big box retailers. Order 10 free samples of any product and we'll ship them to you for free. And right now, save 50% off any order during our Labor Day sale. Blindster.com.
This is an important notice to all U.S. taxpayers. The IRS is giving away billions of dollars in tax savings through a federal program called the Fresh Start Initiative to aid delinquent taxpayers. This initiative was established for anyone facing financial hardship and unable to pay their back taxes. Qualifying and enrolling in this program will stop all collections, settle your delinquent tax problem, and even reduce what you owe by thousands of dollars. Call the hotline at People's Tax Relief to see if you qualify and get this free information by dialing 800-727-9105. If you have unfiled tax returns or cannot afford to pay your personal or business back taxes, you can now get the help you need. One simple phone call can resolve your tax problem and save you thousands of dollars. To see if you qualify and to get this important free information, call 800-727-9105. 800-727-9105. 800-727-9105.
Hi, I'm Burt Ward, Robin from TV's Batman, inviting you to feed your dog natural, non-GMO, Gentle Giants dog and puppy food. Dogs eating Gentle Giants and following our special feeding and care program are living as long as 27 healthy, active years with a wonderful quality of life. Holy wow, 27 years! Think of all the extra years you could enjoy with your dog. At Petco, Stater Brothers, H-E-B, and more. Try Gentle Giants cat and kitten food, too.
Did you know you can get your prescriptions for less at your local pharmacy? You can with GoodRx. It's the free app that can save you money on your medications. Just search for your prescription, choose the pharmacy and the price that works best for you, and then show your GoodRx coupon to your pharmacist at the drop-off counter. GoodRx works at over 70,000 pharmacies, including Walmart, Rite Aid, and Walgreens, and it works whether you have insurance or not. It's easy to save. Next time you drop off your prescription, check GoodRx. To start saving today, go to GoodRx.com. GoodRx is not insurance.
There won't be much substance on your news feed until you add us. Just like us or click on the link at kcsmradio.com. News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter @Talk El Paso, or Twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of things going on that we're talking about here today, either in, around, about, or affecting the Borderland, as we do every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. And a lot of comments coming in as well, particularly when it comes to the Land of Enchantment. How are those? Okay, first off, some of the ones being like the Amber Alerts, such as Renato Rivera giving some chiding to James Radcliffe, who's saying, come on, what if you went missing? And RJ saying that in my case, it would be a red clay alerts older than dirt missing. But James Radcliffe also saying, I don't know why we talk about New Mexico since there is nothing going on over there. I think maybe doing a little bit of razzing of other commenters and callers on the idea. And Louis Panado saying only concern is the success of the chili crop. And okay, I'll agree with RJ on this one. The best comes from Hatch. At the very least, it's the one that I end up going to. And probably have too much that I should probably replace in the bottom of my freezer from that one time. Oh, God, that was probably a decade ago, wasn't it? Yeah, okay, I need some new green chili, y'all. Anyway, others chiming in, such as Willie Jenkins saying, top off your tank Thursday, and also George Zavala with the good afternoon. Thank you for chiming in with us here. And James Black would say, yeah, it might be a good thing to get some new ones, probably. In any case, Land of Enchantment has certainly been getting its focus of both regional, local, and national attention going on because of what has been going on with the governor's office, that public health order, emergency order, and the legal fights that immediately ensued from it. And I do mean pretty immediately. Got the chance to talk with specifically a representative from the Gun Owners of America, a national spokesperson who ended up filing apparently the first case now of the ones that were filed. They'll get into the details of it about what it was there being kind of put together, and all of these orders seeking, I mean, they were mostly about the temporary, but also what kind of comes next in this process, even if some of the extensions that are actually being requested from inside the governor's office may put this past the span of the order itself here, and what might happen if this ends up going to the Supreme Court, among other things. So a lot of little details here that we get into in this decently extensive interview, not quite one of our marathon ones we've done recently, but again, here is that interview. Joining me now, we have Luis Valdez, national spokesman with Gun Owners of America. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Andrew. It's a pleasure to be on your show.
Happy to have you on to talk about this because since the beginning of this week, at least as long as we've been talking about it, but of course the action itself coming from New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham when it came to that temporary pause, restriction, however you want to put it, but the Euroscol's contention is an unconstitutional ban on the public carrying of firearms, particularly within Bernalillo County and the city of Albuquerque. That action technically coming at the end of Friday, but a lot of the response and happening, and y'all's filing coming as of this week, right?
That's correct. We actually were able to file our complaint Saturday evening. We were burning the midnight oil all Friday and Saturday to make sure that we were able to challenge and fight this in the courts.
Yeah, and so the case styled Gun Owners of America, Inc. and Gun Owners Foundation, with also Randy Donk, plaintiffs, versus, among other things, Michelle Lujan Grisham in her official capacity as the governor of New Mexico, and then several other officials listed within the administration of the state of New Mexico as defendants. And, of course, the significant action that has happened since you all filed is that there was a TRO, a temporary restrictive order, that has been put into place, and there are at least one major update to that today already, right?
That's correct. The TRO was put into effect yesterday at 2:55 p.m. by the judge. And what's interesting is the governor's office themselves, they actually asked for an extension of time to fit this into their own schedule. So I guess it wasn't that much of an emergency as they said it was.
It's an interesting contention to make, but in any case, with that extension of it now, I mean, the order itself, the way the governor initially put it into place, was going to be in place for 30 days, though through ostensibly, and maybe not quite the 8th of the coming month, but close enough to it. Does it seem like now this period will then cover the entire remainder of the duration of that initial order?
I believe so. That's a better question from our legal side of things, but from my understanding, yes. I think right now the TRO will cover the leftover time period from the date of enactment. So she, of course, enacted this suspension prior to the TRO going into effect. So I believe the judge initially said 12 or 14 days. Now you have the governor's office requesting for an extension to fit their own scheduling. So it very well could be that the TRO will cover the entire span of the initial suspension.
Yeah, I think the initial amount of time that the suspension of the suspension, not to get too deep into the weeds on that or crazy with the language, was going to be through just the beginning of October, like October 2nd, I want to say, what was in place for. But beyond all of course, the legal questions that come along with this and the ways that you all were already filing on this, talk a little bit about that, the reason to file on this, and the kind of the quick action that you all decided to take on it.
Well, the reason to file on it is very simple. You're talking about an inalienable God-given right that we're all born with, that was vacated and basically suspended on a political whim by an elected official who publicly stated that the Constitution doesn't matter, that her own oath of office doesn't matter. And when even questioned by the media if this will have any effect on crime, she even said, well, of course this won't have any effect on crime. Criminals won't follow this. Her entire reason for doing this was political, and it was to specifically target law-abiding gun owners, which is something we will not stand by and abide of. We will fight this tooth and nail. We are a no-compromise gun rights organization, and we fully believe that we, the American people, have the right to keep and bear arms both inside and outside of the home to protect ourselves.
So in doing it in this way, I mean, there have been a lot of conversation on this, including within the state of New Mexico, the rumblings of potential impeachment moving forward this, but kind of talk a little bit about the grounds on which this was filed. Again, it was specifically filed against the governor and members of her administration, particularly those that were involved in the public health departments, public safety, those kind of things, as the order initially was styled as a public health emergency order. So when it comes to that, there's been a lot of conversation, and one particular phrase does come to mind, it has been used a bit, as that there is no public health emergency exception to constitutional rights. Is that kind of the basis on which y'all took action?
That's very much the basis. There is no exception. There is no reasoning to suspend. You can't declare an emergency and suddenly go, oh, well, the Constitution is null and void. It doesn't work that way. I mean, our entire premise and system of government was built off a very simple foundation, that our rights are inalienable. The Constitution simply enumerates those rights. It doesn't even grant you those rights, because these rights, according to the founding fathers, existed even before the Constitution was drafted. Mm-hmm. And she decided to suspend them on a political whim for political points.
Again, if you're just joining us, guest right now is Luis Valdez, national spokesman with Gun Owners of America. You want to find out anything more about this, their release, and even the filing itself that I'll be referring to and have been referring to there, gunowners.org is their website to find that. So that's GUNOWNERS.org. Now, of course, there have been some questions about what led up to this, not necessarily asking you to comment on the reasoning behind the governor or why she ended up putting this into place, but I don't think it's been exactly a secret that in Albuquerque and in other parts of New Mexico, even parts closer to our immediate broadcast area, there have been issues and concerns with crime, and particularly violent crime, as was evidenced, and the reasoning that the governor did give for putting this order into place. So when it comes to that issue, that part of this, how do you all end up responding to that, for particularly towards those that are saying that, well, but something needs to be done about these very bad situations when it comes to public crime and violence that comes along with it?
Well, as a 15-year veteran law enforcement officer, I could easily answer this. She was soft on crime. There was a revolving door prison system in which hardened criminals who should have been behind bars were let loose either on ROR, release on recognizance, or very low bonds, and they've gotten slaps on the wrist. Her entire political stance has been to coddle criminals and target the law-abiding public. If she really wanted to crack down on crime, she could have enforced it by saying, hey, if you commit a crime, we're going to put you in jail. But her entire actions have been the exact opposite, because last I checked, murder has been illegal since Hammurabi wrote it on stone tablets thousands of years ago. And guess what? Criminals still break the law. That's the entire issue here at stake, is that she wanted to target the law-abiding public, and she was again questioned by the media asking, will your order stop criminals? And she herself said, of course not. Criminals aren't going to follow this, because here's a shocking thing. Criminals are criminals because they break the law.
Particularly on the enforcement question, then, that was a part of it, and one of the prominent parts of the filing, literally clause number 2. I'm going to read from that directly here again. That case styled against Gun Owners of America and Gun Owners Vantation versus Michelle Houlihan Grisham, among others, et al. Put it that way. The subsection 2 was aware that local authorities have publicly announced that they are unwilling to enforce this clearly unconstitutional edict and have staunchly refused to participate in defendants' scheme to deprive their constituents of their constitutional rights. Defendants have ordered the New Mexico State Police to act as a private army of stormtroopers to be sent en masse to enforce defendants' open and notorious subversion of constitutional rights. You mentioned, of course, there, and we've talked about on this program already, that a lot of the local officials, including the sheriff and the chief of police covering, respectively, Bernalillo County and the city of Albuquerque, and even the attorney general for the state of New Mexico, in their own capacities, have basically said that they are not going to take action on this, whether it comes to the immediate enforcement or even of defense of suits like these, among other things, of which y'all's is one of several, right?
Yes, I believe that there was a total of 4 or 5 suits filed. They were all consolidated into one case. I believe ours was the first suit that was filed. But you bring up a great point. The local agencies that refuse to enforce this. And here's the fact. The chief of Albuquerque Police, he's a known anti-gunner. The county sheriff, he's a known anti-gunner. And even the attorney general, he's a known anti-gunner. But the interesting thing is they all understand that you cannot suspend someone's civil liberties on a whim. They understood that her actions were completely unconstitutional, and the only reason why that she targeted it with the state police was because that was the only law enforcement agency directly under her control, because the sheriff ain't under her control, and neither is the city police.
Yeah, referring there, of course, the state police being the ones that are most purview under, again, immediately the state control, like you say there. So when it comes to the aspect, then it's also been, y'all have been tweeting out, and there's been reporting on protests that were happening already so far this week, if not immediately over the weekend, on the issue. One from the Albuquerque News, abq.org, I think the ones that y'all retweeted about how there was no law enforcement presence, even particularly at least one of the protests. Yeah. It's from the paper in ABQ saying that no sign of cops at gun protests. So when it comes to that aspect of it, then the enforcement seeming the lack thereof so far. There were civil penalties that were the part of the order there, up to about $5,000, among other things. So when it comes to people asking about, so what is the impact of this? If there hasn't been one, I guess what would be the response you have to people saying, so why even file if nothing has actually been done based on this order?
Well, you file because this is a violation of a constitutional right. Just because some of the powers that be understood it was a violation of a constitutional right doesn't mean that the act still occurred. Under that logic of not filing as a police officer, that would have been like, well, the guy only did an attempted burglary, so, he didn't actually commit the whole burglary, so I'm not going to arrest him. That would be the same action as if we didn't file. It's just like, well, no one's going to fight this. No one's going to press charges, so we're not going to file. No, you go and you fight for your rights. No more, no less.
And again, if you're just joining us, guest right now, Luis Valdez, national spokesman with Gun Owners of America. Again, everything we're talking about, most of that information available, if not all of it, at the very least through the releases under the Press Center at gunowners.org. That's GUNOWNERS.org. So with this action, then, again, with the, TRO, effectively an injunction against the continuation of any potential enforcement of that order put into place by the governor of New Mexico, what are you all seeking to then have happen through the end of this? Because particularly if we're talking about it now being that order elapsed by the time that next thing happens, there would be an argument that it could be rendered moot at that point in time. But what's the perspective and what you all would want to see happen through the continuation of this particular case and the suit that you all filed?
Well, our goal is very simple. We want to make it a permanent injunction, and we want to have case law specifically established from this incident that says you cannot use a public health crisis like this to violate and strip the American public of their civil rights. No more, no less. This needs to be a test case to show the rest of the draconian, tyrannical gun grabbers in the United States, whether they're in Hawaii, New York, or anywhere in between, that you cannot do this. Because when she did this, I know that you had politicians in Arizona congratulate her. You had politicians in Washington State congratulate her. And you even had some within the Biden administration congratulate her. They were all looking at this saying, where does this go? Because they were thinking if this goes positively for them, they could implement it elsewhere and violate American civil rights.
That has been, of course, one of the conversations that has come up around this as being even outside of y'all's case, a test case for the expansion effectively of, depending on state constitutions, of course, but of effectively what powers a governor can or cannot enforce. Like you said, case law there, because if this were able to be done something where, well, I've identified an emergency, a public health one, or otherwise, any governor's thinking that is, then being able to take what would be otherwise effectively legislative action is at least part of the concern that comes up in this case, right?
Very much so. A lot of gun grabbers, especially because of the recent Supreme Court rulings with McDonald v. Chicago, Heller v. DC, and now NYSERPA v. Bruin, they know that legislatively they're going to face challenges in pushing gun control because of text, history, and tradition. All gun control laws now must be able to coincide and be able to be judged with the text, history, and tradition of the laws of the United States in 1791, when the Second Amendment was drafted and it was enumerated into the Constitution. It was ratified. So their danger now, and they know this, is that they can't move forward legislatively because we now have the legal backing with Supreme Court doctrine to challenge this. So they're looking at other avenues. They're looking at other ways to do this. That's why you have on the federal level, you have the Biden administration is now pushing ATF to bypass Congress to push universal background checks because Congress can't really do anything. So there you have both on the state and the federal level, gun grabbers wanting to violate people's rights, and they want to do it in a way that they think cannot be challenged in court.
Of course, some of the things that could potentially come out of this, particularly with the response coming from the administration of the governor in New Mexico, with the response to this TRO and anything coming with it, depending on how it goes, there's the strong possibility that this could then end up in the Supreme Court in its own right. Is that kind of the intention, or at least willingness to see it through if it were to get to that point from y'all's end?
We will fight it to the Supreme Court. If they appeal this, we will take it to the Supreme Court. That is a matter of fact.
Fair enough. And so when it comes to then kind of the long-term aspects of this, again, there's a lot of conversation about rights, about the use of it, the appropriateness. But when it comes again down to the core issues that are behind the reason that, again, the governor has elaborated on, or at the very least, the specific reason for, if not necessarily the situations being encountered, one of the lines continuing to be used was about debate, wanting to foster debate and wanting to take drastic action in order to shake people out of their druthers. I don't know. There's been a lot of ways it's been described. But when it comes to that aspect of this, of just wanting people to stand up and pay attention to this, how do y'all respond to that particular line of reasoning that has been, again, put forth by the governor and her spokespersons?
Oh, well, this definitely brought attention to it. It brought attention to the tyrannical acts that some lawmakers are willing to go to violate American civil liberties. And just think of this. This isn't just involving the Second Amendment. This involves the Fourth Amendment. This involves the Fifth Amendment. This involves the First Amendment. Because you had as you said, you had individuals protesting in Old Town and down in Albuquerque. They were exercising their First Amendment rights to protect their Second Amendment rights. So if there was law enforcement action on that, you then had police violating someone's First Amendment rights while they were protecting their Second Amendment rights. And that then goes onto the whole issue of, with her order itself, suspending the ability to carry a firearm. That means someone's Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights will also be violated because, hey, if they're concealing a firearm for their own self-protection, to protect themselves, to protect their loved ones, to protect their businesses and their property, and police are then going to pat them down and frisk them as if they're a criminal when they have done absolutely nothing wrong, that's also a violation of their Fourth and Fifth Amendments. This is clearly an assault on the Constitution. It's not just a gun issue. It's a civil rights issue.
Again, guests right now with us have been joining us has been Luis Valdez, national spokesman with Gun Owners of America. Again, all the details on them, this action, they released the filing, those, all of it, over on gunowners.org. That's gunowners.org. So, Luis, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us about this, about the details, about y'all's action and the intention and what y'all intend to do with it, come what may after this point here today.
Thank you very much for having me on the air. It's been a pleasure, and I want to say that what you do in of itself is a great thing. You are a shining beacon of liberty in these dark and troubling times, and you are willing to allow the truth to be spread on the airwaves. So thank you for that.
And again, thanks to Luis there with Valdez, again, with the Gun Owners of America, for talking to us about all the things going on. There's still more to come. And so the impacts of the asking for the extension of that, the time frame for that TRO to then be argued in court is very interesting and kind of another wrinkle that we'll, again, continue to have to keep our eye on that whole situation. But let's go and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, probably a quick segment, but a little bit more to talk about here, including on those border security and immigration issues, what local organizations are starting to say, what's being reported on them. So taking that break right now, coming back after this with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere. Still looking forward to booking my next appointment coming up here before too long, and you'll get the chance to do so as well with Hammer and Nails, one of the best, if I do say so myself, options for total men's grooming here in El Paso. And we're going to be doing that giveaway before too long, and that's why I say you'll be able to make your own appointment. But of course, you can do it anytime, day or night, by heading over to their website, hammerandnailsgrooming.com, and just looking up the El Paso location. It takes about 5 minutes the first time I did it, and that was looking through a lot of different options there for myself. First time I went for the premium cut and premium beard grooming, but they have a ton of other services, including hand, foot, face, gray camo, and a whole lot of different services. They also, of course, have their memberships, the classic VIP, and now, of course, their new Club Lux membership. One price for that one, and one monthly price, and unlimited services, and even the ability to bring a friend along with them. So you can go and see that for yourselves. We got that video tour that I got to post up from them, showing their great facility over at the fountains at Farah that is very comfortable and discreet when it comes to getting yourself taken care of and looking and feeling great. So again, find them online, get those appointments for yourself, and stay tuned for that next giveaway. hammerandnailsgrooming.com. That's hammerandnailsgrooming.com.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 news update. An El Paso father accused of kidnapping his child from the child's mother was arrested in Juarez. Ariel de la Luz was turned over to El Paso police last night. The 11-month-old child that he's accused of taking to Juarez was turned over to the child's mother. According to investigators, de la Luz stole a car and took the child from his home on Wednesday. He is currently being held in the El Paso County Jail. A woman has been arrested after allegedly firing shots at a house party in Far East El Paso earlier this month. Officers have arrested 45-year-old Nikita Kamel Bray Davis. That shooting happened on September 9th at midnight in the 14,000 block of Owl Point. According to investigators, a house party turned violent when more people showed up than anticipated. Davis is accused of firing a gun to clear people out. This has been your KFOX 14 news update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
On Gateway East, approaching Zaragoza, a minor accident is being moved off to the right. Some minor delays. I-10 eastbound is slow from Piedras to Geronimo with a 5-minute delay. Still stop and go in the Upper Valley. South Desert eastbound from the Anthony exits down to Artcraft, 30-minute delays. And southbound on Mesa Street from Desert Boulevard to Wyoming, it's a 6-minute delay. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. It looks like we'll see numbers come up a little more for our Friday. Partly cloudy skies, high around 93 degrees. Then we're looking at a front to push in for the weekend, mostly going to increase our storm chances. So we'll go partly cloudy, breezy for your Saturday with a 20% chance of thunderstorms, high around 91. We'll also see about a 20% chance of thunderstorms on Sunday, high 90. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. Shopping for new blinds? At Blindster, we offer over 50 different blinds, shades, and shutters at low prices, custom made for your windows, and shipping is free. And right now, save 50% off any order during our Labor Day sale. Blindster.com.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Don't get hit hard by high prices or low trade offers. Score a touchdown and save thousands on new and certified pre-owned vehicles and get more for your trade.
Trade in and trade up for less during Jeep Adventure Days at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. For a limited time, get $6,500 off MSRP on 2023 Ram 1500 Lowstar, Bighorn, and Laramie trucks, or 2.9% APR for 72 months. 2023 Jeep Gladiator trucks, 10% off MSRP. Take $3,500 off MSRP on 2023 Dodge Charger. Get $2,500 off MSRP on 2023 Chrysler 300 and 2023 Dodge Challenger. Worried about your credit or worried that you're upside down in your trade? Forget about it. Our aggressive lenders will push to approve your credit, even if your credit is less than perfect or if you owe more than your trade is worth. Trade in and trade up for less at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. $1,550 per thousand finance includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTL on select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., and let's talk El Paso.
Klein tools are new at Lowe's. Right now, get the new Klein 3-piece ModBox mobile workstation exclusively at Lowe's for just $319.94. Because Lowe's knows tools. Lowe's knows pros. This report is sponsored by Lowe's.
The most current and comprehensive. Just minutes away at the top and bottom of the hour. And always online at KTSMradio.com.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, more or less the main one where most of the comments come in, but that's not to say any exclusion for others, such as Amanda Mancanda suggesting a bunch of different other public health orders. I'm wondering how many of those you've encountered in your personal life, such as one for bald guys, and now saying there should be a public health order to protect old guys from gold diggers. Ken, you doing all right over there, buddy? In any case, a lot of other commentary coming in, including on our interview there again today. James Ratcliffe saying test cases can lead to a revolutionary war, not a civil war. I don't know. I mean, I reject the black pill on this categorically. Don't think you're anywhere near that, and anyone who was clamoring for it needs to get right with their mind and their Lord. But otherwise, it would say that test cases can be important, but also there's definitely an argument to be made that, I mean, like Dred Scott and other things leading up to the Civil War were part of it. But in any case, that's a more historically based one than much of anything else. But a continuing conversation about that. And of course, Talk El Paso brought to you in part by Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat, where they have their Jeep Adventure Days going on until October 2nd, where you can get up to 10% off MSRP or below MSRP on select models for well-qualified buyers, or thousands of dollars off. So find them over there at, of course, 950 Crockett Street, right across I-10 from Sunland Park Mall. Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. So, talking about some of the other things directly going on here in our region of the world, specifically, we have, of course, been talking about, and y'all have been bringing up, including some phone calls and even off-air comments y'all have been making into our program here about what we are looking at whenever it comes to the border security and immigration situation, particularly when it comes to the migrant situation, because looking over, as I often refer to when we encourage people to take a look at elpasotexas.gov/migrant-crisis, and we'll start developing some graphics to put those directly on screen for y'all looking that way. But if you're online, I'd definitely recommend you take a look at it, because with the migrant releases, they are still trending upwards in our area, and the hotel operations back in there. And even as of the start of this month, not quite middle to end of last week, Sun Metro Transportation has also begun along with that. Encounters are trending upwards, and in custody numbers have been overall trending upwards for at least the last few months. And that's one of the aspects, I guess, going into from El Paso Matters out today. Their article titled, El Paso Migrant Street Releases Imminent as Numbers Rise, Shelter Operators Fear. That article title from Cindy Ramirez with the same, then again, El Paso Matters, saying that there will be more releases onto the streets. So similar to, or harkening back to, what was that, 2018, I want to say, around the Christmas time when it just kind of happened. In that case, it was done with much coordination. But as you all have been talking about, noted in the article here, many migrants have already been sleeping on sidewalks, alleys, and other public spaces in downtown, South, and South Central El Paso as they time out of shelters or are turned away because of lack of space. They have a quote there specifically from Blake Barrow, Chief Executive Director of the Rescue Mission of El Paso, saying, quote, "We've lost track of what capacity means," noting that that all the shelters are, quote, "We are beyond full." So with that, and they also noted, so I still have my supposition about El Paso seeing increased just the amount of transportations to our area to use the processing facilities. But El Paso Matters note that El Paso Border Patrol sector is encountering an increased number of migrants, specifically noting that Wednesday, several small groups crossed the Rio Grande into El Paso and requested asylum at the border wall, and encountering, among other things, the Texas National Guard. And that conversation and that enforcement part of it continuing on there. But they do end up confirming that bit of it, that specifically the Tucson and Del Rio sectors are being, migrants from those areas are being brought here. And a specific phrase, and the better way, I'll probably use it from now on, the lateral decompression, as confirmed by agency officials in El Paso with Border Patrol. Not giving out the numbers on exactly what it is, but appreciate El Paso Matters getting that particular answer on this one. So the fact that it's coming to our area, and among other things, noted on, again, the El Paso, Texas.gov/migrant-crisis, the Migrant Situational Awareness Dashboard, noting, again, that article from them, noting that a lot of transportation to the county's Migrant Support Services Center, or as it is on that chart, the MSSC, which has been the primary source or destination, I guess, for Sun Metro transportation related to this issue happening in our area, though there also has been, at least in the last few days, starting on the 10th and the most recent day available, the 12th, also to hotels and shelters. So an increasing amount of resources, both local and federal, being utilized in this way in our region. So with the idea of more street releases coming, and one of the sub-headlines in that article from El Paso Matters, numbers on the rise. Again, we've never been particularly done over, or never having a presence of this issue or the concerns that come with it, with the cross-border travel and asylum claims, all of those kind of things, even with the changes and, of course, the policies now in place. Title 8 having taken the place of Title 42 as the main mechanism of dealing with it. So there's still there's still a lot of details and a lot of questions coming out about this, about one is going to happen after this point. And again, the resources in this area with some that El Paso Matters spoke with, of migrants specifically, noting that nothing but flies for a couple of days, particularly when resources at some of those local services, including Sacred Heart in downtown Segundo Barrio in El Paso, running out of food and availability of it. But the travel focus does continue on, among other things, of keeping it moving. That has pretty much been throughout administrations and throughout the recent decades that we've been talking about this anyway. There is still that plan, and was brought up yesterday, and again, El Paso Matters confirming it further, about the city negotiating the purchase of the vacant Moorhead Middle School on the west side, or I guess the former Moorhead Middle School. So that is in part entirely possible, and it would also be an animal shelter, but also an emergency migrant shelter, according to Mayor Oscar Leeser at August 14th City Council meeting. So yeah, there are still, and the other concerns being brought up by other city council members, again noted by El Paso Matters, about is that going to happen or not, with, again, possible impending releases. So another one that we'll keep our eye on here in our region. But with that, let's go ahead and take that next break right now. And coming out of this break, we'll go ahead and open up those phone lines. Well, we'll open up the phone lines now and start getting to those calls here, or maybe not quite right after this break, but pretty close in short order. So if you want to get on the line, add your 2 cents. That number, of course, to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Still have 20 minutes of stop-and-go traffic in the Upper Valley eastbound on South Desert between Mountain Pass down to Artcraft. I-10 westbound before Vinton, one lane there because of road work, but that lane is back open after an earlier accident's just cleared. Gateway East approaching Zaragoza, a minor accident is cleared, and slow traffic eastbound Montana from Saw Kleinfeld out to Zaragoza, 7-minute delays. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. Shopping for new blinds? At Blindster, we offer over 50 different blinds, shades, and shutters at low prices, custom made for your windows, and shipping is free. And right now, save 50% off any order during our Labor Day sale. Blindster.com.
The annoying runny nose, the constant sneezing, the itchiness, and battle just to catch your breath. If you suffer from seasonal allergies, sinusitis, or nagging sinus congestion, there's a natural, easy-to-use solution that can help provide fast, drug-free relief. It's called Navage, and it uses powered suction to rinse your nasal passages in seconds. Millions of people use Navage daily to help provide relief from seasonal allergies and sinus congestion. Medications treat the symptoms, but Navage treats the problem at the source, flushing out the allergens and pollen trapped in your nose. Navage also helps wash out airborne bacteria, dust, dirt, and viruses quickly and painlessly, so you can get back to breathing clearly again. Say goodbye to sinus suffering and hello to better breathing with Navage. Navage is available at Walmart, Walgreens, Target, CVS, Rite Aid, and online at Navage.com. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E. Clean nose, healthy life.
Lavinia presents its Harvest Wine Festival, Saturday and Sunday, September 30th and October 1st from noon to 7. Over 20 wines available for tasting and purchase. Live music, local art, and craft vendors. Delicious Southwest food. New VIP section. Information at laviniawinery.com.
This is an important notice to all U.S. taxpayers. The IRS is giving away billions of dollars in tax savings through a federal program called the Fresh Start Initiative to aid delinquent taxpayers. This initiative was established for anyone facing financial hardship and unable to pay their back taxes. Qualifying and enrolling in this program will stop all collections, settle your delinquent tax problem, and even reduce what you owe by thousands of dollars. Call the hotline at People's Tax Relief to see if you qualify and get this free information by dialing 800-727-9105. If you have unfiled tax returns or cannot afford to pay your personal or business back taxes, you can now get the help you need. One simple phone call can resolve your tax problem and save you thousands of dollars. To see if you qualify and to get this important free information, call 800-727-9105. 800-727-9105. 800-727-9105.
Wendy's new breakfast 2 for $3 Biggie Bundles lets you choose from your fave 4, including a sausage or egg and cheese biscuit, small seasoned potatoes, or medium hot coffee. Limited time only during breakfast hours. U.S. price and participation may vary. Not valid in a combo. Single item at regular price.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. We are super short timing it this segment, so if you're on the line, stay there. But if you want to get on the line, add your 2 cents on the many things going on and affecting us here in and around and about the Borderland region. We brought up a few here today, including some other questions that we didn't quite address about what's going on with that piece of property down near the corner of Sun Bowl Drive, rather, and North Mesa. Will UTEP buy it or not? Well, El Paso will get some of the details on that, but a whole lot more going on. So if you want to get on that line, again, lines are available, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
A crash on Gateway East approaching Zaragoza is partially blocking the on-ramp at Gateway East. Slow traffic through downtown. I-10 eastbound from Cotton out to Geronimo is a 10-minute delay. Stop and go on South Desert from the Anthony exits down to Artcraft. It's a 25-minute delay. Eastbound Montana is slow after an earlier crash has been cleared. Saw Kleinfeld out to Zaragoza, 5-minute delays. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Don't miss our 2023 iHeartRadio Music Festival.
Are you ready?
See Foo Fighters, Kelly Clarkson, Tim McGraw, and many more.
News
Friday
on the
Saturday,
hour
September
and a half.
22nd and 23rd.
Traffic and weather all day. News Radio
Streaming live only
690.
on
It's
Hulu.
KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. Former President Trump says Democrats have opened the proverbial Pandora's box following the indictment of Hunter Biden. More from Lisa Taylor.
In a post on Truth Social, Trump said Democrats have started a process that is very dangerous for our country. The president's son was indicted on 3 felony gun charges by a special counsel Thursday. Trump said the gun charge is the only crime that Hunter Biden committed that does not implicate crooked Joe Biden. He went on to say it is possible that the USA will never be the same again.
The deadline for automakers to reach an agreement with the United Auto Workers is getting closer. The union says a strike will happen if a deal is not struck by midnight Eastern tonight. One estimate says a strike lasting just 10 days could result in a total loss nationwide of more than $5 billion. The CDC is speaking out against Florida's latest COVID-19 vaccine advisory. Governor Ron DeSantis and State Surgeon General Dr. Joseph Ladapo held a news conference yesterday advising residents under the age of 65 to not get the updated shot. ABC News reports that CDC Director Dr. Mandy Cohen is calling the state's comments unfounded and dangerous. President Biden is praising the American spirit while touting his economic agenda.
Whatever we've set our mind to as a country, we've always accomplished. We've never failed. Not a joke. Think about it. Naming one objective America's set that they haven't been able to accomplish if we work together.
While speaking at a community college in Maryland, Biden claimed the Republican plan will give tax cuts to the wealthy, cut Social Security and Medicare, and raise costs for American families. A 10-year-old has drowned trying to cross the Rio Grande into Texas. The Honduran child was with a 26-year-old woman. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, begins Friday at sundown. Sarah Lee Kessler has more.
It involves the sounding of the shofar, a ram's horn, a call to prayer to reconnect with God and to celebrate the birthday of the universe, with Jews repenting for sins they've committed and praying to God for forgiveness. A sweet year.
Dip the apple in the honey.
Apples dipped in honey are customary in Rosh Hashanah, as are other sweet foods. The 2-day holiday leads up to Yom Kippur, the Jewish Day of Atonement.
Sarah Lee Kessler reporting. Joann Incorporated is laying off some of its workers at its headquarters in Ohio. The company owns and operates 850 Joann Fabric stores across 49 states. A spokesperson for the company says the layoffs are necessary to align the company's expense and corporate structure to the needs of the business. It's unknown how many workers are being laid off. San Diego State is receiving funding from NASA to develop a version of space guacamole.
The grant to develop space guac comes as the U.S. launches the Artemis program to return humans to the moon and eventually take them to Mars. SDSU says they're developing sustainable powdered guacamole to deliver algae to astronauts, since algae is full of nutrients and antioxidants and able to handle the pressures of space. The university also says they chose the food to hide the color of the green algae and to cover some of the salty, ocean-like taste and smell with the traditional guacamole flavors, like onion and lime. I'm Jack Cronin.
Netflix is releasing the trailer for Wes Anderson's The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar. The film is adapted from the short story by writer Roald Dahl. It stars Benedict Cumberbatch, Ben Kingsley, Ralph Fiennes, and Rupert Friend. The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar starts streaming on Netflix on September 27th. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
The countdown is on to our 2023 iHeartRadio Music Festival.
The most massive live music event of the year.
Friday and Saturday, September 22nd and 23rd at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas.
Streaming live only on Hulu.
Introducing Audible's new original series, Breakthrough, the first of its kind audio-only singing competition featuring celebrity judges Kelly Rowland and Sarah Bareilles, with host Daveed Diggs. Hear who has what it takes. Listen on Audible or wherever you get your podcasts.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. Since 2010, Blindster has sold millions of custom blinds, shades, and shutters to satisfied customers across the country with 20,000 5-star reviews and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. And right now, save 50% off any order during our Labor Day sale. Blindster.com.
Hey guys, this is Andrew J. Polk. My not-so-secret way of looking and feeling great is going to Hammer and Nails, El Paso's newest men's grooming destination, with everything about your personal grooming, privacy, and comfort in mind. Ready with your favorite drink at the door. They offer everything from head to toe, hair, beard, mustache, and hand and foot services. You want to find out about their full services and their great memberships. Of course, find them online, hammerandnailsgrooming.com. That's hammer, A-N-D, nailsgrooming.com. And I'll see you there.
Why is iHeartRadio the #1 streaming radio app? Free music.
Free live radio stations from all over the country.
Free podcasts.
Free playlists.
Free contests. Free artist radio stations.
Commercial-free stations. It's free. I love iHeartRadio. Join the millions of music, radio, and podcast fans on the #1 streaming radio app now.
iHeartRadio.
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 Free never sounded so good.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. For people tuning in, chiming in over there, or on the other various pages, and dropping those likes and reacts that we certainly do appreciate, including Amber Banda, Ed Clore, Monica Cervantes, Renato Rivera, Robbie Flores, Ion Graham, RJ, James Ratcliffe, James Holmes, and Ida Beza Gardner. A lot of conversation going on, including about the issues that we're dealing with here, and the costs associated with it, and the resources coming along, and use of it here. RJ referring to I think the Super Lodge on Dyer referring to there, and also an issue with aggressive panhandling. I did see, I'm not quite sure what it was, to be honest with you, because it was I wasn't driving at the time, so I was able to look back at it. But it was actually over on Mesa near I-10 on the west side. Yeah, it's North Mesa and I-10. There you go. And it almost looked like a protest, except it was a bunch of people with signs. It seemed more like a church fundraiser, but I wasn't able to, again, I was confused enough that it seemed like a protest, because a bunch of people on like the side of the roadway there with a bunch of signs, and then I saw they had water bottles and were kind of going up to people in the turn lane. Like, hey, don't be doing that in traffic. I've had enough issue for the whole, I mean, as much as it is for a good cause, fill the boot kind of stuff of the people like wandering between cars. That just seems like, particularly from a public safety standpoint, mixed messages at best. But then we have people maybe doing stuff like that. Like, just stay away from vehicles. That's just a good advice in general. In any case, a lot of other conversation going on, but we've of course got those phone lines open, if full up at the moment. So if you want to chime in there, again, when one call ends, a line becomes available, et cetera, et cetera. Keep that number handy, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. So let's dive right into it now. We do have Andrew on the west side here with us right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you, Andrew, and thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, sure thing. What's on your mind?
Well, remember the famous phrase from our county judge? let them in. We can handle it.
Yeah, what was it? Let we can handle it, or bring it on. Any kind of jocular attitude about this just seems like you're asking for trouble, because it'll either work out and you'll have something. The risk for reward calculation is just not there for me. Like, either it'll be something that you can kind of brag about, or something where you'll be proven wrong, and it just neither seems like a good way to take an attitude about this. I just got to say personally.
That is correct, and we do not only have an immigrant crisis. Okay, although the people in Washington may say, on the Democrat side, may say we don't, but I would suggest that they come down here again and see school-age children with their mothers or parent, as I have seen. Panhandling, and we're looking at school-age children who should be in class and are not.
Yeah, that's not a great situation either, though. Again, one of the major parts of it, and okay, so in other places, and particularly the dichotomy between what we've been seeing here and the issues, the way we experience it here in our area when it comes to this whole, again, border security and immigration set of issues, and that's why reason I refer to them together. Of course, we've heard recently from, the mayor of New York City in statements that he did walk it back a bit, but on serious concerns about the costs outlays that they are putting forth out there. And they're looking at, what was it, like between 12 and $18 billion in cost overruns? No, not all of that related to this. And by most of my calculations, not even any of it, like the cost for even housing someone like 24/7 in like a prison population, even the most expensive ones like Riker Islands would put, sure, the 100,000 people that have arrived and are seeking to stay there would run into the billions. But of course, that's not the level of services that are being talked about, is 24/7 housing and providing of all of everything like you would find in a jail setting. But the major difference there is, of course, that is a resettlement issue. That is a more permanent question, whereas, sure, maybe ongoing in our area, but resettlement is not really a part of the conversation, at the very least not from any of the major organizations or governmental agencies that are involved in our area. It's all a keep it moving kind of thing, which is why, as much as it keeps coming up, that potential policy of like the Remain in Texas could throw even further of a wrench into the gears and the mechanisms that work in our area at the very least, even though we'll see if that ever actually comes to see the light of day as a policy.
Oh, I hope not. But one other thing besides food and shelter, you have to factor in medical costs.
Yeah, certainly. We've certainly heard about that in our area, and the fact that that's one of the probably more significant things that happens. It's really supposed to happen before any release from particularly federal custody, but I do know from people that I have talked with, it often then ends up falling onto. And if we end up in that situation, that El Paso Matters does suggest on what they are hearing from local shelter operators about street releases happening again, because basically, in a nutshell, again, very individual circumstances are going to vary, but right now there is a level of coordination between the federal government, the law enforcement agencies present and doing that work in our area, the CBP or DHS agencies in general, let's put it that way, within these organizations, that when they're looking at releases, they're, at least particularly when there have been lower volume levels in the past, and I do believe it still continues this way from what I'm hearing, is that they'll essentially call them up or contact them and say, hey, we got these people coming in, how many can you take, et cetera, so that if then street releases happen, what that basically signifies is that kind of handshake system has then broken down, and there's no longer, if their agencies are calling up and asking, hey, you got any room? And the answer is no. They're saying like, well, we did our best, and we can no longer be holding them due to various policies, procedures, etc. within federal custody. So good luck, lots of luck kind of situation out there. So that's another signifier and another serious problem that comes along with this, and why that level is not just a more people being released. So what? It's a lot more going on in the back end than may meet the eye at initial look.
Very true, but also another factor. You definitely have in some cases a public safety issue. Number one, that individual that was captured in Pennsylvania, not sure exactly when he came in, but then again, you have an individual who was said to have entered through El Paso, went to Pasadena, Texas, wound up sexually assaulting and murdering a 11-year-old girl, and he was an illegal immigrant. I believe it was from Central America, someplace there.
Yeah, I think I know the case you're talking about. I'd have to look up the exact details on it there. But I mean, okay, certainly the pushback on that kind of whenever that comes up is that it's not all of them. And, even the stats bear out a very small portion. But even when those cases do happen, it ends up not being a good look for any of the individuals, organizations, or agencies that are involved in it, because it then leans itself to that kind of narrative. So it's not even just good public policy, but also good PR policy to make sure that as much as can be done and functionally done so. I mean, if money is no object, anything can be done, and money certainly has been an object here, both locally, statewide, federally, because I mean, even the state of Texas is immediately in the billions on the spending of this, if it were in recent years, or I do believe probably within the most recent biennium, or the one that we are now into since the budget has been passed. I mean, not the most current one, but you get my point there. So point overall is that without having the things, there's a lot of like, well, we just got to do what we got to do kind of reasoning that seems to start to seep in, at the very least, when we start getting to, again, increases in numbers, increases in issues, and straining of resources. And there's not a lot of good that ends up coming. I mean, no one's like, oh, strained resources, that sounds like a hell of an opportunity. Like, there's not a whole lot of positive association that comes with that situation, regardless of what the exact implications and specifics are.
True. But my point is this also: there's no way to completely screen these individuals. You do not know what they've done in their country. Some arrest reports don't get into Interpol, and therefore we don't have access to that. Some countries may just furlough these guys out, and then they decide to come to the United States. It's a quagmire of problems, Andrew.
Yeah, and considering that most of this is, okay, I'm not sure adjudication is really the phrase of it here, because even though we talk about, again, immigration courts being a part of this, they are not judicial system courts. But before these decisions, certainly there are decisions being made on when it comes to the asylum cases, among other things, considering that it is pre-decision. Most of this happening when, whatever evidence they do have to present ends up coming forward, and any, I guess, more records like that can end up being looked into more in depth. I mean, a lot of these are, to put it back in judicial terms, because the best one I can think of at the moment, of being essentially pre-trial release is kind of the en masse of what we're talking about here. And since there hasn't been a lot of that background work done, I'm not saying that therefore keep them all locked up, because again, that has been its own bad situation, particularly in our area. I mean, one of the reasons that we're seeing the increase of numbers well above the encounters we've been seeing in our region, though again, encounters trending upwards as well, don't get me wrong, has been because of increased facilities. And those facilities are, by most of my reckoning, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me of the effective capacity that exists within the El Paso Border Patrol sector, at the very least at this time, but 5,000, and the most recent number there, the CBP in custody 7-day rolling average, sitting at just over 5,500 at this point. Again, according to the Migrant Situational Awareness Dashboard over at elpasotexas.gov/migrant-crisis. That's, I have to imagine, considering that's actually above some of the previous high water marks we've seen when it comes to these numbers, I have to imagine that these facilities are getting strained yet again.
Very true. It's going to get difficult. Anyway, Andrew, I'll let somebody else get on the air. I turn the mic over to you, and thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, sure thing. Thank you for the point in the call. You have a good one there.
Likewise.
All right, and with that, too, let's go ahead and take that next break right now and get back in line with things that way. And again, if you want to get on the line, of course, the way to do so is by calling in, and we do have a line available now there. One call in, line becomes available, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM is, of course, the number to call. If you want to add your 2 cents that way. A lot more commentary coming in, such as also Willie Jenkins referring to gleeful idiocy and taking an alliteration card out of the deck there, saying laundry list bamboozling, boondoggles with bombastic buffoonery. I think I said that one right. In any case, we'll talk more about that and some of the other comments coming in after we take this next break. You're, of course, tuned in to Talk El Paso, airing on News Radio 690 KTSM. And again, I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. And of course, that number, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned. If you're signed up, make sure to get it on your calendar and get ready to go. Coming up here shortly. In fact, that's coming up, if I'm not mistaken, next week. The WorkSafe Texas Summit, brought to you all by Texas Mutual Insurance Company, coming to the El Paso area Tuesday, September 19th at the Hotel Paso del Norte in downtown El Paso. Now, if you didn't get your chance to sign up, you're really going to be missing out, because the 2.5 hour free event does come with a free breakfast and parking validation, so free parking comes along with it. So it's still going to have the chance to go there if you are registered and find out about all of the safety and workplace information they got, so you can have safety and compliance that can help employers protect their workers. We'll be headed out there at the very least doing saying hi to some people out there, because workplace safety and the issues with it. Let's just say OSHA is not just an organization that's a boogeyman, but does some very important work. So knowing how they do things, including the Q&A session they're going to be having, pretty significant. So again, if you're registered, make sure it's on your calendar. Coming up again Tuesday, September 19th, the WorkSafe Texas Summit, brought to you by Texas Mutual Insurance Company, happening at the Hotel Paso del Norte in downtown El Paso.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
A big crash on I-10 eastbound at Piedras is blocking 3 right lanes, causing delays. On Gateway East approaching Zaragoza, an earlier accident's blocking the entrance ramp with a backup to Loma Land. Eastbound on South Desert from Vinton down to Artcraft, 10-minute delays. And Mesa Street southbound from Desert Boulevard to Wyoming is a 6-minute delay. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
For one night, the tables are turned, the roles reversed. Noche de Estrellas. Thursday, September 28th at the Plaza Hotel, Pioneer Park. Marathon presents Noche de Estrellas, a new fundraiser benefit.
If you're like many people, you may think custom blinds is a job for expensive professionals. Well, at Blindster, if you have a tape measure and a screwdriver, you can install our custom blinds and save big. And right now, save 50% off any order during our Labor Day sale. Blindster.com.
There are more identity threats than you realize. Even if you monitor your credit, only a little personal info needs to leak out, like your social security number or password.
Or you could become a victim.
LifeLock alerts you to threats you could miss. If your identity is stolen, a dedicated US-based restoration specialist will work to fix it. No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions, but everyone can save up to 25% off their first year with promo code NEWS. Go to lifelock.com.
Go with your gut. Your dog's immune system is based in the gut. A diet lacking in nutrients can cause itching, scratching, and a weak immune system. However, there is a solution. DINOVITE, Dinovite.
It took a grand total of 2 weeks. The dog stopped itching, the hair stopped falling out.
Try Dinovite for free. Just pay shipping and handling. Learn more at dinovite.com/radio.
Happier, healthier with every bite. Over 1 million pets helped with Dinovite.
Exergen thermometers are more accurate than non-contact thermometers. As your children return to school, keeping them healthy is important. Clinical studies have proven that non-contact thermometers can miss fevers due to inaccuracies. Accuracy matters. That's why Exergen is trusted and used by medical professionals. Exergen is available at Walmart and Walgreens, so you can have a trusted and accurate thermometer for personal use. Learn more about why accuracy matters at Exergen.com.
Be more cyber zen. Get NordVPN. With a few simple clicks, NordVPN will block online trackers, secure your devices from malware-infected downloads, and block access to malicious websites. With NordVPN, enjoy internet without malware-ridden files. Take advantage of our special offer now at nordvpn.com.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days. Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, more or less the main one, but a lot of other commentary, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. And if you want to add your 2 cents there, we'll have a little bit of a video issue. Might have to do some digital percussive maintenance over there for us on there. But don't worry, I'm still here. And if you can see us, at the very least, looks like the closed captioning still going that way. In any case, yeah, there's a reason we're out in all the ways that we are. In case one thing doesn't work, we're still up and doing it. And other conversation, including some back and forth with James Ratcliffe's assertion we need to screen politicians and bureaucrats for criminal conduct, and Leonidas Bermuda shooting back. What are you talking about? Criminal conduct is pretty much a requirement to run. Something about politicians' mouth moving, meaning that they're lying. But I'll say I prefer at least pretending at ethics. Well, maybe not pretending, but at least a knowledge towards it when it comes to public and elected office, among other things. But let's get back to those phone lines right now. Again, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Raul in the Northeast on the line with us here right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. Well, day 3 of the show being hijacked by what's happening in New Mexico because it's about guns. And the guys are going to take their guns away or something like that, I mean, this is what the governor of New Mexico thinks needed to be done at the moment for the problems that they're solving. I thought conservatives or Republicans were all for state rights. And at the same time, they say, well, we have to have laws like in the Constitution that protect people's rights. Well, hey, Roe versus Wade, he should be part of the law. Settle law. Precedent, but it was overthrown, and at one time, slavery was legal. There's all kinds of stuff that were bad, that were legal in the past, that are now illegal in the present. And there were things that were, like marijuana. You made a big deal out of it. Other tobacco, a deadly product that kills people, causes all kinds of health problems. But no, that's capitalism. We got to allow that. Same with these guns, those capitalists who make these guns love it. They don't want any laws against guns out there, and nobody's talking about taking everybody's guns away, okay? I'm not for that. I don't know none of my progressive liberal friends are for that. Most of them are in support of individuals being able to own their own, weapons for their home, for the protection of their home. But we don't have to have people running around all over the place with guns. The fact of the matter is, the more guns you have, the more violence you have. That's what the international figures show. And as opposed to the sanctity of the Constitution, I heard Donald Trump say that they should, consider dumping the Constitution over him.
Okay. I mean, we were doing pretty well there on the, at least in our area, affecting issues right up until that. I get it. You like what the New Mexico governor is doing and you are in support of it here, but you got to remember, we talk about Texas and New Mexico issues, more Texas than anything else, at least in recent months, since we did have those state legislative sessions going on. And don't get me wrong, there's still things going on there, including Texas Tribune does have updates on again, the House did rest its case against Ken Paxton, and now the defense, or the House attorneys, I guess is the way to put it here, since they did vote in favor of the impeachment to then send it to the Senate. And now the defense is still moving through there, at the very least. That's the last, well, it's not the last update, but it is progressing through. They're still expected to be done by week's end. So we talk about state level issues, certainly, and what's going on there, just because that's been a gripe of mine about the things that affect us here in the region that's coming out of, the state houses, is not quite as focused on, except for like in microcosm. So again, you're telling you get hijacked with it. I'll take that as you don't like the issue, and that's fine. You don't have to like the issue. I'm not particularly in favor of it myself, but you want to talk about something that is significant and going on. Again, we're talking about a potential, at least over this action, significant lawsuits going on. And again, the potential impeachment of the governor of New Mexico being floated. Still haven't seen too much more coming out of that one, but expect that might happen, a little bit more action with it once we get past through that temporary restrictive order and the extension on it. And once that order is over, at the very least, it's going to be a lightning rod. It's going to significantly change the politics and the conversation going on into these next sets of elections. I am positive for the state of New Mexico, and whether that'll go in the way of the party currently in power or be the thing that is then the lightning rod of bringing up issues against it, that does remain to be seen. And so I'll give you that. But I mean, come on, we talk about Texas and New Mexico issues quite a lot. And when it comes to the national ones, the ones that are a little bit harder to nail down to like immediate effects happening on here, because also don't forget that the governor's orders, the immediate gun part of the suspension of constitutional rights, or the suspension of specifically the open and concealed carry permits, and also of the ability to carry guns in public areas within Bernalillo County and the city of Albuquerque. Yeah, that is specifically that area, of which our signal does on a good day get to. But more than that, there are other parts of the order, including the fentanyl part of it, the enforcement that comes along with that, and the awareness efforts that was also a part of the governor's overall thing. And it's an argument that the whole thing was about awareness, is definitely in effect in New Mexico, and so for our listeners in that part of it. So I mean, we previously had this conversation about how if you don't like certain things, you don't want to see them happen, that's fine, but these are affecting people in our region. You do recognize that, right?
Right, and so do the things that happen in Washington, D.C. They affect what happens in El Paso, too. You know, like the crisis this country is going through right now because of what the ex-president did. Staged a failed coup on the Congress and failed to go away. And now most of his party, the party of the cult of Trump, want this guy who is just bloated with baggage. I mean, ugly baggage. Why any Americans would want him as a model for their kids is beyond me.
Anyone, okay, again, there's this whole supposition there about the relationship between voters and the people that they vote in does not, I mean, if that's the relationship, they work for us. So anyone putting anyone forth as, I mean, cults of personality just make no ding damn sense to me. But again, I get it. You don't like the former president. We're in Friday territory very firmly there at that point. And sure, things that Washington goes through, that's why we end up talking about policy when it comes out of those. So again, appreciate the point of the call, particularly on the local aspects and the things going on here. So you have a good one there. But let's go and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll take more calls on the line and more of the things that are going on and directly affecting us here in the borderland. I mean, sure, it could be argued that the stuff going on in Ukraine, the stuff going on in Taiwan Straits, the stuff going on with trade relations around the world could have an effect here. But it's also kind of the part about, like, can people do things about it here? Can they have an impact with it? Which is why when we had that whole crypto conversation in recent weeks, it was, okay, what does this mean for you, your portfolio, those kind of things. Anyway, let's go ahead and take that next break right now. And if you do want to add your 2 cents on the line, that number to do so is, of course, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 News Update. An El Paso father accused of kidnapping his child from the child's mother was arrested in Juarez. Ariel de la Luz was turned over to El Paso police last night. The 11-month-old child that he's accused of taking to Juarez was turned over to the child's mother. According to investigators, de la Luz stole a car and took the child from his home on Wednesday. He is currently being held in the El Paso County Jail. A woman has been arrested after allegedly firing shots at a house party in Far East El Paso earlier this month. Officers have arrested 45-year-old Nikita Kamel Bray Davis. That shooting happened on September 9th at midnight in the 14,000 block of Owl Point. According to investigators, a house party turned violent when more people showed up than anticipated. Davis is accused of firing a gun to clear people out. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
I-10 eastbound at the Piedras on-ramp to the I-10. 3 right lanes blocked because of an accident. Stay to the left as you get by there and expect delays if you're on the 10 eastbound. Through downtown, traffic's backed up to Franklin. Eastbound on South Desert from Vinton down to Artcraft, 15-minute delays. And an earlier accident, Gateway East approaching Zaragoza. Entrance ramp is partially blocked there. Still some slight delays. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. It looks like we'll see numbers come up a little more for our Friday. Partly cloudy skies, high around 93 degrees. Then we're looking at a front to push in for the weekend, mostly going to increase our storm chances. So we'll go partly cloudy, breezy for your Saturday with a a 20% chance of thunderstorms, high around 91. We'll also see about a 20% chance of thunderstorms on Sunday, high 90. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. Shopping for new blinds? At Blindster, we offer over 50 different blinds, shades, and shutters at low prices, custom made for your windows, and shipping is free. And right now, save 50% off any order during our Labor Day sale. Blindster.com.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Don't get hit hard by high prices or low trade offers. Score a touchdown and save thousands on new and certified pre-owned vehicles and get more for your trade.
Trade in and trade up for less during Jeep Adventure Days at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. For a limited time, get $6,500 off MSRP on 2023 Ram 1500 Lodestar, Bighorn, and Laramie trucks, or 2.9% APR for 72 months. 2023 Jeep Gladiator trucks, 10% off MSRP. Take $3,500 off MSRP on 2023 Dodge Charger. Get $2,500 off MSRP on 2023 Chrysler 300 and 2023 Dodge Challenger. Worried about your credit or worried that you're upside down in your trade? Forget about it. Our aggressive lenders will push to approve your credit, even if your credit is less than perfect or if you owe more than your trade is worth. Trade in and trade up for less at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat at I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. $1,550 per thousand finance includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL on select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Attention homeowners. Costly repairs ruining your budget? Get the award-winning Choice Home Warranty and see how much you can save. Call 1-844-674-5971 for a free quote. That's 1-844-674-5971. Limitations apply. Visit choicehomewarranty.com for details.
Discover credit cards do something pretty awesome. At the end of your first year, they automatically double all the cash back you've earned. That's right, everything you earned doubled. The cash back from trips, restaurants, all doubled. Seriously, though, see terms and check it out for yourself at discover.com/match. This report is sponsored by Discover.
City streets or small towns, everyone deserves a clean, green community. We are Keep America Beautiful, the nonprofit working to end littering, improve recycling, and beautify communities. Let's do beautiful things. Visit KAB.org.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of commentary coming in and different things. Those dropping those likes and reacts. Again, that's primarily the Facebook page, but it's one we get most easily shown here, including a Richard Janicek, Ed Clore, Monica Cervantes, Renato Rivera, Robbie Flores, Ion Graham, RJ, James Ratcliffe, James Holmes, Amber Vonda, and Ida Beza Gardner. If you like the ability to talk about the things going on and affecting us here more than any particular subject, well, that's the way we take it anyway. And okay, so again, we never really put out like a mission statement of what does it mean for a local issue here. Well, we put out mission statements to talk about the things, but basically here's the kind of Cliff Notes version of it, if you haven't gotten into it, is that either what's going on here, like stuff happening in El Paso or the Borderland region, our broadcast area, certainly, but also things that are affecting us here. So we look at all the things, or try to, at least in the coverage we bring, of what does it mean here? So things happening like, again, there's a lot of national news here. The Hunter Biden trial, the Biden impeachment hearings or investigation going on, the Trump trials. This is not to say those are not significant and probably important to people in our region things, but what does it mean here in El Paso at the moment, the El Paso region is kind of we'll see, which is why when we start talking about national stuff in the rest of the week, it ends up coming down to there's policy changes, and what could that mean here for individuals? So that's the kind of lens we use for it. And then, of course, all bets are off on Friday. So Friday's always coming, y'all. It's the pressure relief valve for the week. And it's almost, it's always almost Friday. And we'll say that Leonidas Bermuda saying that he's done with it, going to become the local UFO investigator at point, and it's going to be a local issue. You know what? You find extraterrestrial. You find extraterrestrial involvement in our area or present, we will absolutely talk about that. I will 100%. We will talk about local or locally present or involvement with extraterrestrials. You betcha. Anyway, more commentary coming in other ways, but also those phone lines still going. Again, lines are available right now, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. We do have Ben on the east side here with us right now. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Hello, Andrew. It does seem to me that El Paso may soon become the New York City of Texas, with all the care and housing requirements our city is going to have to provide for the illegals crossing into the United States. Under this new Remain in Texas proposal. And I just have a question.
Sure.
Has anybody even asked the citizens of El Paso if we want to do this? I don't remember my city or county officials asking us that question and giving us a choice.
I will say, okay, I think we have talked about this previously, and that there are essentially emergency orders in this way of the response to it.
About.
Okay.
I know what we're about, the emergency orders and things like that. But the city council and the county officials are just saying, we will take care of the illegals whether or not you want us to or not. Okay, that is what we're going to do. We're going to take on this problem, and the citizens be damned. If it's going to harm them, who cares? That's what our city officials are telling us. That's what our county officials are telling us.
I mean, I get what you're saying, but I'll say, at least the way I take it, I mean, I'm not saying that I'm totally on board with everything that is mostly usually not with what's come out of city council and county commissioners, but that I look at the alternative, at the very least in this case, because the focus is pretty much entirely when it comes to both the city and the county efforts, and most of the local nonprofits that are also involved in this, is about keeping it moving, keeping them out of this area. So if that wasn't the focus, it does make me wonder what the alternative would be of having people that are seeking to either stay, remain, or being forced to stay in the area because of any other lack of support. And it does make me wonder which would be the better option. And I kind of lean towards to, if there are issues with the way that it is being constructed, the way the situation is, at least the intention of the way it's being handled at the very least.
Do you see that with the Remain in Texas protocol, if this actually is passed, that we're not going to, it's not a matter of we're going to have a choice.
Sure. I mean, yeah, that completely changed the calculus.
We're going to have to take care of these people, just like New York City is having to take care of them in Chicago and being overrun. Their citizens, they can't afford it. We can't afford it. I mean, my God, we're one of the poorest cities in the United States. We're going to take on that mantle, huh?
I mean, yeah, if that policy, as again has been floated, there is an update from the LA Times actually as out of yesterday that, there was already a response from Texas Governor Greg Abbott, among other things, and the Times there quotes him as saying, quote, "It should be remain in Mexico, not remain in Texas," as earlier this week he was speaking on Fox News there saying, quote, "We have a lawsuit ready to go that will eliminate this threat by Joe Biden if he dares pull the trigger on it." So there's still anticipation of it, has not actually been released in any concrete way so far yet, basically besides the Times reportings on this, the LA Times, that is. So, yeah, there would be concerns, and there would be certainly legal and other pushback action. But, I mean, yeah, all that aside, if it were to come into place that the Remain in Texas, or if any realm of possibility even enters into this conversation of it being a remain next to the border or in border states, sounds like that would be at least more feasible, if not still particularly in the realm of feasibility, that would still have quite a lot of focus and a lot of pushback on it, because the whole logic of take the problem, push it over there, or take the problem and keep it there so it's not the rest of our problems, doesn't really work out in the long run. But in either case, that would certainly significantly change the calculus of the way the local response is even formulated. I mean, there is not, as much as there certainly is, shelter space that has been focused on, and the idea of buying up more of it on the city's part of it, the facility that the county already brought on. I mean, there has been that investment, but frankly, given the scope of the operations and of the people that have been moving through this area, it is nowhere near the scope of what would be needed to truly handle that for any extended period of time beyond the kind of keep it moving scope that we have right now.
Well, one of the things you just said is what would happen if there was, if we had an alternative. Well, the alternative that we're being presented is that we will take care of these people regardless of whether or not you want to or not, because we're going to do it. That is what, and I, it may not be right now, but I think that, what people in El Paso have to do is to rise up and say, no, we're not going to do it. That's what the reality is. We're not going to, and we can't do it.
I'm not even saying that there's not people out there that are going to say that, but what I would expect is that, given the lack of involvement of people involved with politics as it is, I mean, the whole I'm mad as hell, not going to take it anymore moment. I mean, individuals may have experienced that in our region, but in mass, just shown by the voting numbers, hasn't really happened. So if it were to happen, my expectation at this point would be it would be an after the fact, not a, hey, this could happen, or hey, we're concerned about this coming here. Again, individual circumstances may vary, and I expect that people who are listening to this program may be a little bit more on the, okay, I'm aware of what's going on, but for everyone else that isn't, this is not a wake up sheeple moment, but it's they won't really start paying attention to it once it starts, affecting them directly, arriving at their front door, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly. When it starts getting bad enough, then the people will rise up and say, we're not going to take it anymore. But unfortunately, by that time, we'll have all the infrastructure and everything set up where we have, where our government is going, our city government, county government is going to say, too bad, so sad, take it. Right where you don't want to.
Yeah, and I guess that is partially the concern, and why I think that was an important one that we brought up about the kind of, sounding of a minor alarm being put out by the organizations that are currently dealing with this in our region, and why we could be seeing at least temporary, but the longer term question. So I still am a little bit dubious of, particularly given some of the response and backlash that has happened, that the administration would actually be willing to go through with this, because it does kind of feel like a serious escalation. I mean, if politics, even a smacking of politics involved in it, like if they're doing a tit for tat with the governor, oh boy, that's just a whole kettle of fish.
They're renting housing out to them at our expense. They're buying a school at our expense already. What else are they going to do? How many more hotels? Just like in New York City, how many hotels are they going to? How many are they going to be setting up that we're going to have to buy and take care of? And that the response from the federal government, I'm sure that they owe us a lot more money still from all the things they've done to us in the last year. I'm sure that we haven't gotten haven't got paid for that. And by the way, I don't remember us having a printing press like the U.S. government has. And golly, I guess. If they want to, they could buy up El Paso if they wanted to. If they want to make us into a penal colony for people to hang out here.
Kind of a weird Escape from New York kind of situation coming to mind for me.
Exactly, boy, that's perfect. Kurt Russell, great analogy. Great analogy.
Weird movie at the bar spot, but I get your point there. And according to the city's website, which I don't think this number has been updated in a while, that there's still a pending $1.37 million. But that is, well, at the very least, has been updated since the first quarter of this year. So or at least the way I'm looking at it, I don't think that that's an accurate recounting of there on its own. But again, we'll see. Again, I'll be surprised if the administration truly moves that way, or because, well, that's just one hell of a battle line and political line in the sand being drawn there. So we'll keep our eye on it, and of course see what our local situation is dictating and the response needed from it.
Okay, stay well, stay safe. God bless, and let's go, Brandon.
All right, well, appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
Thank you.
And one comment I'll get to before we get to probably one of the last calls we will just squeeze on right now today. Jackson Martin asking over on the YouTube, instead of talking about it, what can we do about it? I will say that, among other things, one of the things I'm constantly impressed about is the generosity of El Pasoans, because as much as there has been definite need, there have been a lot of people that have stepped up, people that I've known, and just the general public overall. When there was one of the most significant last times that we did have these street releases in our area, a lot of people came out to try to help out with it. So I'd say if you are so inclined and wanting to, I know some people disagree with the concept of it, but I got to say that, prevention better than cure, among other things, that dealing with it, and, well, at least with the current situation and the current calculus that comes along with it, being involved with organizations. I mean, there are a lot of faith-based ones that are putting out and doing this kind of work in order to try to, well, alleviate human suffering and the situation that does exist in our area right now beyond the larger political questions. So I would say reach out to them. Again, El Paso Matters on their most recent article does have some of the information on organizations that are doing this kind of work. So that's kind of on the individual level, even if it can be a little bit unwieldy to consider the national things. I mean, if this policy comes out or not, there's not much that any individual or even elected official in El Paso could do about it, particularly when it comes to, again, the national policies. But there's always something that can be done, even if what's a phrase I think about? You're not going to change the world, but you could change the world individually, but you could change the world for one person or one entity when you help them. I think we have time for at least one last call on the line here. We do have Frankie and Messia on the line with us here right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
Okay, Amber gave me three choices: Albuquerque, some Amber Alert, and some guy getting out of jail. And I think I'm going to go back to Albuquerque. Now, let me just say this, and this is quite a telling point. Just today, some judge, some federal attorney general there, indicted Hunter on 4 gun charges, which is the conservatives are just all up and down. They're just so giddy. They're like a little girl with hands between their legs. They're so excited about that. And having that, it just transfers over to the same thing that our great Governor Grisham is attempting to do, is do something about weapons. Now, yes, come on, please don't embarrass me by saying there's a difference. It still comes
there
down
is,
to
but okay.
guns. So if they're going to be that bent out of shape about getting Hunter Biden because he made some kind of mistake on some kind of whatever it is, and then you're going to beat up on Michelle for trying to do something more important than just some stupid little entry thing on some kind of federal gun thing, I think it's ridiculous. That's a telling aspect on it. That's my opening comment.
Okay, I mean, you are right. I am going to say there is a difference because all other things being equal, if you have not been accused of a crime and if you have not had anything that you are doing of a criminally suspect nature, you would reasonably expect as an average person and citizen of the United States to not be having impacts or things going on with your rights. Now, if you have committed a crime, which again, in that situation you're talking about, yes, it's nationally, but I get the link that you're making with the local issue on it. So we'll address this for a second here. That's literally a court case. That is a criminal proceeding, among other things. I mean, yeah, there's the crap load of political implications with it that I almost don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole except the case being dragged up. But so the point is that is a criminal proceeding. So trying to point it as same to of a, again, even from the governor, Michelle Lujan Grisham's own mouth, of saying that will criminals comply with this order? No. So it's going to be the law-abiding people who want to stay in that category of doing it, meaning that through no fault of their own, no action of their own. As a matter of fact, they are seeing their rights abrogated. You got to see the difference there. Come on.
No, I'm not. It's not a hard and fast, separation. It's this or it's that. Excuse me, that is the same thing. There are minor little differences here and there. My major overall thought process, we're talking guns. That's what I want to focus on. Michelle is trying to do something about this rampant killing stuff, because of nut jobs out there that can't control themselves, right, wrong, or indifferent, Second Amendment, I don't care what you want to talk about. And then the conservatives are so hell-bent for leather to go get up on Hunter because of some stupid little error he made on his FFS or whatever you call those gun thingies. That's what I'm going to say. Now, my last point, because I know we're running out of time. I want a little mind game, because I want to talk about this tomorrow, Andrew. I'm serious. I've been thinking about this while I was sucking down a few brewskis, The question to you and everybody else out there, in our current democracy, the way it stands right now, is the problem the politicians, or is it the problem of the representatives that elected the politicians? That's the question I want to push out there for either today, your comment, or I'm going to push on that thing tomorrow. What do you think? That's my ending comment.
Fair enough. And tell you what, we'll leave that one hanging, and I'll bring it up again at the start of the show tomorrow. Let me rephrase it slightly. Is the current situation the fault of the people we elect, or of the people who are doing the electing, the general population?
Okay, you want to phrase it that way? That's fine. But you got the gist of my comment that I want to really explore tomorrow, if I'm able to do that.
Fair enough here. And that is a local one, and the one that I've harped on a little bit because I don't want to taint anyone's answer on this, but let's just say that well-worn soapbox I have about voter turnout rates definitely is going to be influencing my thinking on that answer. But let's get into that there. We'll certainly can get into that tomorrow here. So do appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
Okay, Andrew, take care.
All right. And with that, we do have to take that last break right now. Coming out of this break, tell you a little bit more about what we got going on for you and some of the things that are coming up. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 eastbound at Piedras, an earlier crash is being cleared off the I-10 at the Piedras on-ramp. One right lane remains closed, less than 5-minute delay going back to Franklin. Seeing some slow and go on Mesa Street northbound from the downtown exits up to Desert Boulevard with 5-minute delays. Earlier crash on Gateway East at Zaragoza cleared, all lanes back open. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Macy's Backstage. What will you find at Macy's Backstage? Here's a hint. Fall finds for $25 and under, like sharp blazers, cozy sweaters, cargo pants, jackets, and more. Find the latest trends and new arrivals at a Macy's Backstage store near you.
Every day, you breathe in thousands of microscopic germs, allergens, and viruses. Don't let these invisible invaders make breathing through your nose impossible. Flush them out with Navage. Navage uses powered suction to pull saline in one nostril around the back of the nose and out the other nostril, helping flush out all the nasty things that make you miserable. Nearly 4 million people use Navage to breathe better, snore less, and feel healthier. People like Cindy, a verified Navage user who writes, "I've had such awful nasal congestion for the last couple of years. I bought Navage and OMG, I can breathe again. I love this thing. Goodbye, Neti Pot. Hello, Navage." End quote. If you suffer from sinus congestion, allergies, or snoring, then Navage is the safe, drug-free solution you've been looking for. Navage is at Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Target, and Navage.com. Navage. Navage. Clean nose, healthy life.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot more stuff coming up for you and that we are working on. Again, we'll keep our eye on this whole New Mexico situation and the Texas situation. Again, the impeachment trial expected to conclude this week, but, well, we'll see how that is. And, of course, as we get closer to the decision, beyond the everyday arguments that have been happening, that we could have done the whole show on that, but, well, we got other things going on and more direct things happening here in our area. So I'll have to leave it there for today. But, of course, Free for All Friday coming up for y'all, in which we'll get into all of it, just keep it clean. But, well, as we do every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., but take the gloves off when it comes to the topic selection. But in any case, I want to thank everyone that did tune in, comment, call in, participate in the show today. We'll do it again tomorrow, as we do every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. So until then, until next time, stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.